Welcome to Candela, Obscura, Brave New Faerin. I hear you're looking to join a new circle. Well, you've come to the right place to get started. Today I'm going to take you through Candela Obscura character creation step by step and get you good to go for when you find the right circle to join. I'll have chapters in this video so you can jump back and forth to different sections if needs be. I'll be recording the character I create on Roll20, but no matter what character sheet you're using, you should be able to follow along. Alright, let's get started by going through the classes, or roles as they're known in this game. Roles and specialties. So step one to making your character will be to decide on a face and specialty. It's best to think of these as like your class and subclass type of archetype. Your choice in archetype will dictate your primary role in your circle and where your expertise and skills lie. Fear not, no matter how bad you are with a certain skill, you still will be able to roll, just with a higher likelihood of failing, of course. So within the base game, you have 5 faces, each with 2 specialties. That leaves us with a total of 10 options to go through. That's some quick math right there, if I do say so myself. Each specialty gets access to its own set of skills, so be sure to have a read of them before deciding. Alright, let's do a quick run through of your options, and if you already know what you kind of want to go for, then feel free to use the chapters below to skip ahead. Alright, let's jump in. The face. As the name implies, the face is the charismatic member of the group that will usually excel in skills related to acting, persuasion, and motivation. Often the spokesperson for the team. Within the role face, you have the specialty of the journalist and magician. The journalist is a driven investigator who's determined to get to the bottom of a mystery. The journalist will really excel in gathering and assessing information. Think of an individual who's able to read between the lines and recognize connections between information or puzzle pieces. Second specialty is the magician, who's a master of attention, being able to distract and deflect on unwanted eyes or delve into some subterfuge, but also a keen eye for trickery that is similar to their own. Although most abilities of the magician revolve around the limits of real-world trickery, they could choose to embrace part of the flair and harness bleed to perform actions that are beyond our comprehension. Be sure to have a quick look through some of these abilities as well and see if they fit your playstyle, because you don't get many abilities and you need to make sure you kind of have an idea of what ones you'd like to go for. Second role is the muscle. The muscle group will usually excel in physically related activities such as combat tactics or traversing dangerous environments. Although this game mainly revolves around investigation and containment of magic leaks from the other realm known as the Flare, there's always a possibility of ending up in a confrontation. The muscle is usually the first to confront the enemy or protect their loved ones and friends. The first specialization for the muscle is the Explorer. In this case, I like to think of Lara Croft or Indiana Jones type character. The Explorer is heavily focused on nerve as a primary drive, and the abilities focus around the endurance and confronting danger. With the ruins of Old Fair not but beneath the feet of the citizens of New Fair, perhaps your character has accidentally found an entrance to Old Fair in their life and yearns to explore further. The second specialty is the soldier. As you might expect from the title, this type of character would be well trained and disciplined, being able to assess and devise a plan in the worst of situations while being very familiar with weapons of all sorts. From your training, your primary drive is intuition, and your abilities will focus on combat, strategy, and discipline. The last Great War ended only 3 years prior to the current year, which gives you tons of options to play a veteran from the war, someone who has heavily experience in that war. The third role is the scholar. The scholar of your circle will usually be studious, logical, and the intellectual member. Somebody skilled in critical and logical thinking that prefers to assess the facts and plan accordingly. The first specialty being the doctor. Being able to perform medical procedures, apply treatment in the field, can be the difference between life and death in New Fair. The doctor relies on intuition as his main drive, and the abilities revolve around anatomy and healing. You might be surprised that the doctor has some abilities that aid them in combat, and reason being, having such an in-depth knowledge of one's anatomy allows you to be able to target certain weak points. So be sure to read through the abilities of these characters. Some of them might surprise you, and you can come up with a very interesting character that might kind of deceive the general perception of what a doctor might be and act like. Now, whether the Hippocratic Oath is in this world or not, have to check with your DM. The second specialty is the professor. After spending years researching your chosen subject, you are able to apply your learnings in unique ways in the field. Your primary drive is cunning, and the abilities revolve around critical thinking and leveraging your knowledge and expertise. I think you can have a lot of fun with the professor in trying to really narrow down what they are professor of. And I'd even look to see if you can homebrew with your DM potentially small little bonuses if you happen to choose a subject that is very relevant to your current investigation, you know? The fourth role is SLINK. The SLINK is usually not academically trained, but has a thorough understanding of life in New Fair streets. Seen as a street-smart and roguish member of the Circle, the SLINK is a clever individual who has experience in navigating the underworlds of New Fair. Not opposed to involving themselves in crime or clandestine activities, but this does not inherently mean that they are a bad person. The first specialization of the SLINK is the criminal. An accomplished outlaw who knows how to operate in the underworld, relies on cunning as their main drive, with the abilities revolving around street connections and nefarious activities. I like to think of Han Solo type character if I was to generalize it a little bit. The second specialty is the detective, and while the detective has an understanding of the criminal world, it comes from a different perspective, more of an outsider looking into the criminal world. Our primary drive would be the nerve, with abilities focusing on uncovering truth and stopping malefactors. Malefactors? Bad people. Criminals, essentially. I had to Google that word, I'm not gonna lie. Last but not least, the final role is Weird. The Weird role is a class with the most magic corruption / influence in their abilities. They are the magical or supernatural member of the Circle with connections to occult, forgotten lore and thinnings, but this does come with some consequences. The medium is an adept psychic who knows how to communicate with otherworldly beings. What brought these powers forward is up to you to figure out, but trust me, you're going to have plenty of ideas flooding through that will fit this setting. The primary drive being intuition, and abilities focus on divination and connecting with spirits. So the medium, as it kind of might be expected when you read that, is speaking with dead sort of scenario or abilities. Not to the full extent as you might think, but very fun, very kind of like, it can throw the DM for an absolute loop, is what I can say. The abilities can really be like very open-ended for the DM, and you can very quickly lead down paths that are difficult to navigate but fun to navigate for the DM. Second specialty is the occultist. The occultist, on the other hand, is a highly studied practitioner of the mystic arts with a fundamental knowledge of the supernatural. As to how you came by these powers, maybe there was a family heirloom that's been passed down for generations that provides the basics, and maybe this heirloom was unearthed in Ulfair. Once again, there are many fun backstories possible. Primary drive for the occultist is intuition, and the abilities are focused on ritual and knowledge of the arcane. Once you have a face and specialty selected, make sure to record that on your character sheet if you're using Roll20 or Foundry Tabletop. If you're using physical sheets, this is the time where you would select which character sheet to actually print off, because they've had them laid out so they're pre-filled in certain ways. So next step is to assign action ratings, which determine how many d6 dice we roll when using that specific action. The ratings fall into 3 categories: nerve, cunning, and intuition. And we'll now assign action points. The first 5 action points are determined by the specialty that you have chosen. I'll pause the video here and take note of what your specialty action ratings are. I've chosen Journalist. According to this list, I will fill in Read 1, Survey 2, Focus 1, and Sense 1. All we need to do is fill in the circle underneath the action. So for Read 1, I'm only filling in 1 circle. If you were filling these in on a physical sheet, you might want to use a pencil, as how the damage mechanics work in this game, you may be required to change these at some points. Next, we choose any skill of our choice that doesn't have any points in it yet and raise it to a 1. So have a look through your skills and see what you might like to have at least 1 dice to roll in, and you increase that 1 skill to an action rating of 1. Last but not least, we get to add 3 points to any action that we like, but we cannot exceed 2 maximum action points. And just as a double check for yourself, what I like to do is you should have 9 total action points when you were to add up everything that you've kind of divided out across all of the skills. So count them up. If you have 9, you're all good to go. If you have any more, any less, you might have missed a step. You might need to go back and double check. Next step is drives. Next, we fill out our drives for each category of actions. Drives are a resource that is used to add more dice to your roll, which should increase your chances of a success, but not always guaranteed. If you look at the 3 categories, you'll see a section called drives on the right hand side. We need to make sure that we fill in the sections for available drive and max drive. 3 points of drive are dictated by your specialty, which I'll show on screen here. Feel free to pause and take it down your record 1 depending on your specialty. Additionally, we get to assign a further 6 drive in whatever categories we like, with the max starting amount of drive in any one of them being 6. I'd advise you have a quick look at the Gilded Dice section while trying to determine where to put your drive, as the Gilded Dice section allows you to regain 1 point in drive. So you kind of want to make sure that you have a bit of space to play with drives and gaining drives back, because essentially if one of your Gilded Dice is in one of drives that doesn't have a high capacity of drives. It means that you might be losing out and getting a lot of resource points back. Now that's purely up to you if you want to play that kind of type of game where you're getting more bang for your buck in a sense. When it comes to your Gilded Dice, then that's something you might want to account for. If you're purely going in here, let's just make a character, I'll choose what I want and we'll see how it plays, then ignore what I just said. So resistances. Resistance is directly tied to your max drive. For every 3 max drive you have in an action category, you can use 1 resistance in that category. You'll find them just below the drive section in your character sheet, and I'll highlight them here on screen. So after completing the drive section, for example, if you have 6 maximum drive in nerve, you gain 2 resistance points. And what a resistance actually does is it allows you to re-roll a failed roll using the original action rating for that action. Essentially, you don't get to add, let's say you've a 2 in that action and you added 2 more drives and you fail that roll. No 4, 5, or 6s, complete fail. You want to re-roll it. You only get to re-roll what your original action rating was, so you don't get to re-roll your drive. So you don't get the full re-roll, but you still get a chance of succeeding, which that's the important part. Gilded Dice. For some reason, this part of the system confused me quite a bit in the beginning, but it's honestly not that complicated. I feel a bit dumb in hindsight, but anyway. If an action you are rolling has this diamond icon beside it filled in, that indicates that one of your dice is gilded. So for example, if I'm going to roll survey and I have an action rating of 2, so I'm going to roll 2d6 and it is gilded, it means one of the 2 dice I roll is going to be a gilded dice. And essentially, if you're using roll 20, it's going to be automatically kind of, you'll see the dice you roll will be kind of outlined in gold. But if you're rolling physically, you want to make sure that you designate which dice is your gilded dice first. It's very important. If I roll those 2d6 and one of them being gilded, whenever the result of the gilded dice is chosen, I regain a drive back in that category. So it means I don't have to be as worried about using up all my drive too early in an investigation, when there's a chance that if I'm rolling with my gilded dice that I will get some drive points back. Now that does mean though, if you roll your 2d6 and one of those dice being gilded, you can still choose that gilded result even if it's a fail. So you can willingly take a failed result just to get some resource points back. And that can lead to some interesting table discussions. Just to reiterate again, when you have an action rating of 2 or 3, you make sure that we specify which dice is the gilded one. Once again, similar to the previous point, one of your gilded dice is going to be determined by your specialty, and you get to choose 1 additional dice to gild. If you're on physical paper, once you have this little diamond filled in, that's fine. I'll show you now where to look on roll 20. You have to go up to this section, I believe it's called Manage Character, and then you should be able to tick this box, and then when you come back to your character, the diamond should be filled in, which means that it'll automatically roll with a gilded when you roll that skill. And just as a reminder, once again, as a bit of advice, if you really want to get the value from your gilded dice, you want to make sure that the actions you have gilded have a good reservoir of drive. Character details. Once we have the mechanics of our character completed, then we move on to character details. In this section, we're going to complete the catalyst, question, style, and circle. If you haven't already, this is where you should be writing your character names and pronouns. These sections of your character sheet will help guide you in the roleplay moments of the game. So the catalyst. The catalyst is what event caused your character to join Candela. And the question is what does your character hope to learn from Candela. With handful of characters that I've made so far, I find the answers for these 2 questions are often similar or closely connected. For example, let's say that our character and their brother had a run in one of the shady organizations found throughout New Fair. During a fight, one of the hooligans brandishes a strange looking object and petrifies your brother. Wanting nobody else to experience the same tragedy your brother is experiencing, you join Candela to help prevent such things from happening again. The question for this character would be that they want to track down what caused all this, seeking a way to save their brother, or maybe to exact revenge. Now, style. How does your character present themselves to the city of New Fair, and what is their aesthetic? What does it feel like to be standing in the same room as this character? You know, what do they like to talk to? Well, those are the lot of things you can kind of just briefly jot down. And that also is a nice reminder for yourself. For sometimes I find I often, instead of playing the character how I wanted to play them, I play the character like me. So if I really want to stay focused on that character, it's good to have some kind of key points for how they'd react. Some of this is a little bit more if I really wanted to get into high level roleplay. Not 100% necessary, but it's no harm to fill them in case you do get to that point and you have an idea of what you want the character to act like. So for the circle, I'm not going to touch on the circle in this video because I will be creating another video, which I will hopefully tag somewhere along here if I haven't made. Detailing how to go through circle creation. Reason being I split these up into two is the circle should be something that I think you should be creating with the other members of your circle. So I decided that I didn't want to clutter and cause confusion by putting them both into the one. So I will be creating another video for how to go through your character your character circle. So for now, unless you have the title of your circle, we can leave that blank and come back to that when we create a circle. Relationships in Candela Obscura are going to help drive how your party interacts. If you're just learning this system, I wouldn't worry about this too much. Go play a few games, like kind of get involved in the setting, really try and focus on being in the setting and getting involved in investigations to begin with. If you're looking to really get into roleplay and truly play as your character, identifying your relationships is a fantastic tool for helping guide how your character will act in certain scenarios. To do this, at this point, everyone takes down the names of the other circle members. You have a look at the character sheets and decide on what their relationship would look like to that character. For that relationship with the character, you can roll on the list, you can choose from the list, or you can come up with your own relationship if nothing there kind of suits it. It's purely up to your own discretion. But I will say, always double check with the other character, make sure that they're comfortable role playing those scenarios, because you never know what somebody might not be comfortable with. So always double check, have that conversation. And it might be a simple case, you might change one or other thing. You know what I mean? Simple. Let's not be dicks. And now you are good to go with your character. Now, I haven't forgotten, we haven't done our circle yet, but I will put that into another video. And once I have that video created, I will link it to this video so it's easy to find. But as far as from your character, you've done as much as you've done everything you can at the moment. When you eventually join a group, you're going to have a session where you sit down, you discuss what the name of your circle, the goals of your circle, all that whole section. So that's why I've kept that to a separate video so nobody gets confused thinking they have to do that now on their own. That should be done with their other circle members. Just to mention as well, I haven't discussed anything about leveling up your character in Candela Obscura yet, because that is actually more tied to your circle than it is to the individual character. So once again, if you're looking for information on how to level up your character, I will put that into the video about creating circles, and I'll tie that all in. Essentially, there's illumination keys. To briefly go over it, your circle, each time you go on an investigation, you'll have certain illumination keys that are like little challenges that your character has to complete. Once your circle gets X amount, I can't remember the amount, but once you hit a certain goal of illumination keys, you then get to quote unquote level up. I'll detail that later on in the other video. I won't confuse people too much now. But as for your character, congratulations. You're now ready to play some Candela Obscura. If you're struggling to find a circle to play with, you're more than welcome to join the Dopes and Dragons Discord. I've been running some kind of beginner games just to get people into the system and to try and get some more experience myself as well. So keep an eye out for posts. I'll put out just a general post. I'll be like, look, looking at this time and looking for a circle of 4 people. Can anyone fit this week, next week? Yada. We'll discuss it on there. Thank you very much for watching this video as well. If there's anything you think I didn't cover or anything I missed, then drop it in the comments. I can describe it in the comments, or I might make a follow-up video and then just tag it in this one somewhere so it can be found. If there's anything else about Candela Obscura you'd like me to detail next or go through next for you, also put it in the comments and I'll be sure to cover it. I'm really enjoying the system at the moment, so for me, I'm going to be making a couple more videos about it, so any topics that you'd like to see, I'd greatly appreciate it. And last but not least, we are affiliates with the beautiful people over at Dakota Irish. Dakota Irish provides all sorts of TTRPG accessories and dice towers, some one-shots, you can name it. Fantastic Irish company. We're very happy to support a kind of local company as well. If you use code Dopes and Dragons, you get 10% off at checkout, and helps them out, helps us out. Everyone gets a nice smile at the end of the day. All right, guys, that's it for me. I hope you found the video useful, and if you did, really appreciate you subscribe. We're still a small channel here, so any bit of growth, and if you have other players you want to get involved and you point them towards this video, it would be very, very much appreciated. All right, enjoy New Fair. Enjoy Candela Obscura. Chat to you in the next one.